Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SBC post-game show, live from Summer League. My name is Jeremy Julian, your host. I am accompanied by Courtney, Ben, and Trent tonight. Final score, Pelicans 89, Hornets 83. Now, it's really rare that we hear fans cheer that loud for the first bucket of the game, but that was the case tonight. It took about 8 minutes for the Hornets to get on the scoreboard. What did you see in the first half?
Now, in the first half, the Hornets were having a little trouble trying to get the ball in. Now, they were scoring a lot of points and a lot of shots. Not a lot of points, but they were making a lot of shots throwing up on the board, but none of them went in. So they had a little type of struggle in there, and they were trying to get control of trying to get the shots in and set up their offense. They got it sooner or later. In 1 minute and 46 seconds, they got a score. They got 2 points on the board. So it took them a little time in the first half to get scored on the board.
Yeah, obviously they struggled early. I think it's a combination of the Pelicans playing well and the Hornets taking terrible shots. They weren't talking on defense. They had low energy. And I think those are things that have a domino effect. You see one guy take a bad shot, then the next guy takes a bad shot. And that's what we saw for 8 minutes in the first quarter where they didn't score because they finished the first quarter 25-5, but after that they seemed to do pretty well. But just a slow start, and that's not what you want to see.
Man, oh man, that first quarter performance was the worst performance I ever seen in a long time, and it was live. They didn't score a bucket until 1:47 in the first quarter. 1:47. These are professional athletes that are trying to make it to the league, are already in the league. And my problem is when I was watching this game, their half-court offense was awful. The coaching didn't want to call them plays. No one was setting screens. They couldn't create their own shots for each other or just for themselves, and that's the reason why they only scored 5 points in that first quarter. They shot 2 for 17, 1 from 8 from the three-point line, and 8 turnovers in that first quarter. It's not going to get it done, and that's the main reason why this team is 0-4 in Vegas for Summer League. It was awful.
Let's switch it up to the game's leading scorer, James Bouknight. What did we see tonight from him?
Yeah, so I think what we know is that he can score. He's obviously talented. He finished with 28 and 7 tonight. In the second half is where he did most of his damage. He hit a lot of shots, and he was fairly efficient. But personally, I think he has another level to him. He's a guy with a little bit of experience. So in the Summer League, you would like to see him lead a little bit more. And contrary to popular belief, scoring is not what gets you on the court. Or even get you on the main roster. It's doing the little things, grabbing the rebounds, talking, being a leader, boxing out. That's how you get your foot in the door, and I would like to see Bouknight do more of that. That's how I think he will earn minutes on the main team. So, yes, the numbers will say that he had a good game from a scoring perspective, but I think that he needs to be better on ways that will actually translate to him when he's on the Hornets.
I totally agree. Numbers look good. When you're not watching the game and you look up, he had 28 points, shooting 11 for 21, 4 for 9 at the three-point line. You're going to be like, wow, he had a great game. They just lost the game. But when you actually watch the game and actually seeing what happened, his body language is absolutely horrible. There was a point in time where his teammate turned over the ball. He's putting his head down. That's not what you're supposed to do as a leader. You're going into your third season still trying to rack up minutes. As a career, you're struggling. You were an 11th overall pick in 2021. You're a lottery pick. The Charlotte Hornets were banking on you to still become something. You're 22 years old. They're trying to, be up there with LaMelo, build that future up, and you have yet to see that. We have yet to see that so far. Summer League, this is when you're supposed to take advantage, take that next leap. But with your body language being awful, with you putting your head down all the time, and then also being Las Vegas, he may be sick, he may have a cold right now, but his stamina just wasn't there for me. I seen him on the bench, he's throwing up, he's not dapping up his teammates. His coaches are telling him to do some plays, and he's not even listening to him. If he can't listen to the coaches from the G League, how do you think he's supposed to, a coach from the NBA, his coach from Charlotte is supposed to respect him? This is what matters now. These reps matter all the time. You're always being watched. And for James Bouknight, you had a really, really good game. At the end of the day, you still lost. You're 0-4, and body language is mattered, and that's how you present yourself. First impression matters.
It definitely does. On the Pelicans side, obviously, there's no question we have aspirations of the playoffs. If you ask anybody from that team, they want to make the playoffs next year. Brandon Ingram was at the game tonight, sitting courtside with David Griffin, if I'm not mistaken. Do you think he's seen anything on the court tonight that leads him to believe, yes, we're making that next step?
Well, I will say this. The Pelicans are a very interesting team, right? 2 years ago, they battled with the Phoenix Suns. They forced a Game 7, and ever since that year, I was super big on them because I'm like, this Phoenix Suns team that year made it to the NBA Finals, right? And the Phoenix Suns, they were a really, really good team, but guess what? The Pelicans are fighting every single day. But ever since then, they dealt with several injuries, and for Brandon Ingram, it doesn't matter. Like, obviously, you can have your players develop and continue to get better, but what matters for this Pelicans team is your two stars, Zion and Brandon Ingram, and these two stars are never out there, and that's going to be a problem. For Brandon Ingram, only played 100 games in 2 years. You can't, that's just super unfortunate. And for Zion, we all know every single year he is injured. He has yet to play, a 70-game season so far. He played 114 games in 3 years. Now, guys, let's think about it. It's 82 games in a season. 82 times 3. He hasn't even played half his games for his career. You get what I'm trying to say?
It's unfortunate.
It's super unfortunate. I know injuries, happen, and that's the game. But this team will not go nowhere if these two players are not on the court. So you can have leaps from, Dyson Daniels or Jordan Hawkins, who you just drafted. You have Herb Jones over there. They have a good constructed team with CJ McCollum. You let go of Jackson Haynes, which I think was very, very good. You still got Jonas Valanciunas. This team should easily be competing in the Western Conference. Let's not forget, the first half of the season for the Pelicans, they were the #1 seed.
They were looking
when
good.
Everybody was healthy, they were the #1 seed. And then injuries started to happen. Zion went down, Brandon Ingram went down, and then they fell to the 10th seed, finishing 42-40. So injuries is always going to be part of the story for the Pelicans. If they're not healthy, they're not going to win, and it's simple as that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then the two players I saw tonight that had some aspirations were E.J. Liddell and Dyson Daniels. Now, E.J. Liddell, he's really good with seeing the floor and getting the ball to his players and making sure that they can get up some shots. Like, he had a lot of assists tonight. And then Dyson Daniels, he's a combo guard. He scored 16 points tonight. He drives to the goal, he attacks the net, and he goes downhill and doesn't let anything stop him.
Miles Bridges. Now, obviously, we know what happened last year. He's going to be back for the Hornets next year. Brandon Miller is a great acquisition, obviously, that they made through the draft. What can we expect from the Hornets this year? They won 27 games last year. My guess is, obviously, we're looking at something that's going to be over 27. What is your take on that?
Absolutely. I think they will certainly improve from their 27 wins last season. Miles Bridges coming back is a big help for them. He was doing really well before he left. Hopefully, Brandon Miller can have an impact this year as well. I don't think they will be better to the point where they'll make a run in the playoffs. No. But I think for them, it's baby steps, getting to the point where maybe in 3-4 years, they can start competing and maybe make the Eastern Conference Finals. And so I think they have to have a broader perspective and a view of patience.
Long term, yes.
They have to be patient.
To be honest with you, I'm very high on the Charlotte Hornets. I know they finished off 27-55, but the main reason why they finished off 27-55 is they dealt with injuries. Half of the team was not on the court. There was a point in time where if you looked at the Charlotte Hornets bench, there was nobody there. They had players fouling out games and no one could come in. Like, it was that bad. Even the coach, what can I do? I just don't have enough players. Injuries really affected this team. And let's not forget, you drafted Brandon Miller as your second overall pick, which has struggled in Summer League, but I'm pretty sure he's going to continue to get better. That's already a positive, right? You bring back Miles Bridges, which he had a career year when he was playing. Unfortunately, he dealt with the suspension, but he was averaging 20 points a game, 49% from the field, 33% from the three, 7 rebounds and 4 assists. That's another score that you're going to be getting. LaMelo Ball, who's their franchise player who just signed a huge max contract extension, he was injured with his ankle, right? He's a walking triple-double. Efficiency is not there, but he's going to continue to prove. Let's not forget, they still have Terry Rozier, P.J. Watson, who had career year this year, averaging 15 points a game, close to 16 points a game. You still got Gordon Hayward. If this team can stay healthy, I still think this team could easily be a playing team, especially with the Eastern Conference not being the strongest. You have your top 6 seeds in the East, but besides that, there's going to be teams competing. And I think the Charlotte Hornets, really can do that. And also another thing I do want to bring up is their bigs are very underrated. You got Nick Richards, you got Kai Jones, and Mark Williams. They're battling for these positions, and so that's good competition for the Charlotte Hornets, especially in training camp, because they're all going to be working themselves out, right? They're going to be trying to get that starting position. I think this team will be fine if they stay healthy, and if Miles Bridges can just act like he a professional basketball player and not do, stuff off the court, I think this team will be pretty good.
Definitely. And while we're talking about the Hornets, Mike, I have a question for you. What do we think of Kelly Oubre? Should they retain him?
My thing about Kelly Oubre, his numbers looked pretty good, right? But like I said before, there was nobody on the court, right? So Kelly Oubre is putting up good numbers, averaging 20 points a game and stuff like that, but he's also shooting 17 field goal attempts a game. That's not very efficient. And then also shooting 33% from the three-point line, which also isn't efficient once again. He's shooting 32% from the three-point line with 7 threes attempted. That's just personally not good enough for me, and he was the only option out there for the Charlotte Hornets with all these injuries. So personally, I don't think so, because if you bring him back, that tells me the players that you drafted, the players that you're trying to bring in, you're taking more reps away from them. And if you're trying to grow and develop this team, that's what you're going to need in the long run. So if Kelly Oubre wants to come back maybe on a 1-year minimum vet deal and, wants to mentor these young players, that's fine. But we all know that's not the case. He wants to win, he wants to play for a team, and he wants to continue to make money. There's a reason why his market is dry right now. This was one of the weakest free agency class this year, and he's still here. No team has picked him up. So that can just tell you about his play from the season, but also the Charlotte Hornets are not too interested in him too. So that tells you two things about it, and I'm pretty sure there's other stuff that we just don't know about that could be potentially happening in the locker room.
Right, I agree. I don't think it makes sense to bring him back. I think maybe it would make sense to acquire a vet who we know is a leader. We know that, Charlotte has had some character issues for whatever reason. It's been pretty consistent. And then you talk about a guy like Book Knight who doesn't show great, on-court demeanor. Yeah. So if they can get a vet who is a clear leader, I think that makes sense. Other than that, I think that they need to give their young guys reps and let those young guys grow, get through the growing pains, because like I was saying before, their real success won't be next year.
No,
it will be in the future.
For sure. And while talking about young guys, if we are to consider Zion a young guy right here, my question is this. Should they look at the trading market potentially for Zion Williamson?
Man, Zion to me is a potential MVP in this league. I think he's a top 10 to 15 player in this league when this dude's healthy, right? Mm-hmm. When he was playing those 29 games, he's averaging 26 points a game, 37% from the three-point line, and 7 rebounds, right? He was dominant. There's a reason why this team was the #1 seed. I have a lot of up and down with that question because you're trading a top 10, top 15 talent, but the problem is, personally to me, if you're not available, you're not helping your team. And so that's the reason why they get bounced out in the first round. There's a reason why they're being a playing team. It's just not enough, So I think the Pelicans are definitely going to be gauging his trade value, but I don't think they just, trade him just to trade him, because that'd be one of the biggest mistakes in NBA history. And I don't think the Pelicans really need that at the moment. And if you really do trade Zion, you're not going to get anything better than Zion, So I don't think you trade Zion, but I will say this. Like I said, he played 114 games in 3 years. If he can't stay healthy for this up-and-coming season, then your direction may have to change, and you may have to look for another player, because this is just consistent. It's just not enough personally for me.
Right. I think it's something that you have to explore at the least. You have to get in those conversations because he has had so much trouble with injuries. I think you make a good point. If he can't play at all this year, that's just more reason for you to get in those conversations to potentially trade him. I don't think there's a trade where you can get the same value as him, but at the end of the day, you're only as valuable as you are available. Like, if you're not available, then you're not valuable. And so, no, I do not think that they should trade him, but yes, I think they do need to explore that and keep that in their back pocket for the future.
Now, I will say this about Zion, right? I feel like Zion, ever since he joined the Pelicans, has been up and down with this team, right? There's always been stuff thrown out that he didn't want to be here. He wanted to play with New York, with R.J. Barrett and stuff like that. Now, we're not sure if that's 100% true, but with this recent injury, he pretty much says, like, I can be playing, but I don't feel like Zion. And his teammates even called him out for saying that, just because it's like, we need to be in the playoffs. Like what do you, like, we need you. Like, you're our guy. So I question a lot of stuff about Zion, and also I feel like he cares about a lot of outside stuff than basketball. You see all the drama that's happening with Zion all over the media world, dragging him and stuff like that. And he knows what Zion knows what he's doing, man. So I'd say this: the letter to Zion, stay healthy, continue to play some good basketball, leave all those people outside. They're just trying to, chase the bag and be you, pretty much.
What I did like to see was some honesty and transparency from him this summer. A little bit more transparent than it's been. But this is it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed the SBC postgame show. I am your host, Jeremy Julian. You have a wonderful night, and thanks for tuning in.